my friend. Oh man, I gotta add some lyrics to that one of these days. I'm so proud of that song. I love it so much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Starbase 80. I'm Captain John, your captain for the evening. You can look at me and go, oh no, this is gonna be awful. Oh, look at this guy. Look at this derelict, this space hobo. Look at him. Well, it's not gonna be terrible because luckily I brought along a man of tremendous ability and fantastic charisma. Ladies and gentlemen, my number one, Flobo Boys.
I was wondering if they contacted the Roddenberry estate to write these lyrics for the song. You know, flying through the air really fast.
Oh, and it's got to be like by the lights of Antares. Like it doesn't rhyme because Gene just wanted to get a music credit.
Right. Get that money, man.
Yeah, get that money. What? Somebody else is making money on my show? No, I get a piece of that, says Gene Roddenberry. We don't hate the player. We hate the game.
Exactly.
That's how we do here on Starbase 80.
Welcome,
Flobo, we are anticipating here on the old SB 80. We are there's Leo Genesek. And let me put up, I haven't seen this in a good long time. There we go.
You haven't seen it. It's your show. What are you doing?
Well, you know, like I don't really conduct the show very well while I'm on it. The talking is really my favorite part. And, you know, it's a talk show. So we are two Star Trek fans. If you've never watched the show before, two Star Trek fans. Flobo Boyce, a recent fan. His first Star Trek was Discovery. I love that. I am a lifelong fan, and it makes me so happy that new fans come in. It makes me happy to talk to the new fans, to get their impressions, especially of older episodes that I saw 30 years ago, 20 years ago. In this case,
man. Not being easy being a new fan, bro.
And it's not easy. And really every fan should be open to the new fans because the reflection of the show through their impressions and their understanding, I think makes it a much better show, a much better experience loving Star Trek. So that's what we do here on Starbase 80. Flobo Boyce, this week in anticipation of the second season of Picard. Picarder.
We made you a 95-year-old android for some reason.
If we as we approach the second season, we're getting a little background information, and by watching this episode, which is a two-parter, so part 1 this week, part 2 next week. By watching this one, we are preparing for Picard. Tell the folks at home what you told me as you started to watch it.
Picard, it being the most dullest show I've ever seen. Like, what the heck is going on? And why is Picard an alien? Why is he a robot? And it was a show no one asked for. He could have been chilling on his vineyard. Like, this was like basically License to Kill, the movie, but in space.
What we fans, I mean, speaking for all fans, which of course I shouldn't do, what we fans wanted, if you were going to go with Picard as the series, we wanted to see like, where is everybody now? What's going on now in the next generation universe, the next generation version of Trek. And yeah, I didn't like it either.
Picard in TNG was a badass. This guy gets kicked out of offices and told, you're off your rocker. And this, look, in the first episode of Picard, right, I knew the show wasn't for me, is when this guy gets on a sit-down interview, and if someone asks him a question about the biggest event, he goes, why are you asking me these things? Are you that dumb? Anyway, point being is the reason why Commander's Song's not covering it, because it just makes me mad. It makes me mad, this whole premise.
And I have to admit that I am a completist in many ways. Not every way, but in many ways. And I do like to see all the shows. And I love Next Generation so much. But oh my gosh, Picard was not, it didn't satisfy anything for me.
Right. The ragtag crew, and
Raffi. The
ragtag
crew. Oh man! And do you remember last week? Okay, so this takes us into the episode for this week. Do you remember last week? I was telling you I have some least favorite tropes.
Yes, is it a list somewhere?
Yeah. You know what? In Picard, my least favorite trope is all the troubled women. Like, oh my god, the characters in general are pretty irritating, but the female characters on this show are so like acting so troubled, and as we've seen from the previews, I don't think that's changing anytime soon.
Only Dixon Hill can help.
Like this episode coincides with Picard 2 in the sense that Picard 2, we know they're going back in time, and we know at some point they go to 2024. 2024 in the Star Trek universe is a very important turning point of a year, because that is the year of the Bell riots, when things that were terrible in America, especially in the United States, in 2024, in
this country,
they all come to a head in 2024, and then things are so bad that humanity in the United States has to go, all right, we got to start fixing stuff. This episode was made in 1995.
Fixing stuff as part of your political agenda, John. I can't say that. I am broke. Everything's broken.
I can tell you this episode is from 1995. Originally aired January 8th. It is the 11th episode of the third season of Deep Space Nine. Third season, what I like to think of as the final season in which Avery Brooks, as Commander Sisko, Captain Sisko, still had hair and no beard.
Oh, yeah.
A look that they made him do. He never wanted to do it. A little bit of research I did. They made him do that because they didn't want him to look too much like a man called Hawk.
Right.
His very popular character from Spencer for Hire.
Was that his hair, though, or was it a hair piece?
That is a very good question.
Because I felt like he already lost his hair for Hawk. And that's why we had it on. I was like, oh, it was people who have hair and shave it off are just so selfish. Right? But if he had a hair piece, I totally understand.
I don't know for a fact. I don't know. He might have had maybe a little spot up here that he had to do the spray on hair.
Oh, okay. I've been there. I thought about that.
Remember the old days with the spray on hair?
Hair in a can. Oh, Rumple peel.
I've actually in some on-camera acting jobs I did in the past, I'm thin in some areas, and I've actually been sprayed.
Oh, dear Lord. I'm sorry.
Now Craig Lubin, who we know and trust,
and has excellent volume in his hair.
He says it was his own hair. I can believe it. I mean, Avery Brooks is kind of an offbeat man, so he might actually be one of those guys like, you know what? Let's go dome.
So he was a guy who just couldn't shave his head whenever he felt like. Must be nice. Flippo fact, I actually was losing my hair at 21 and I shaved it off at 24. So anyone else is just all just haters to me. I look at John every week like, look at you. Your locks and coiffed.
I have nothing else going for me but this hair. This is like the one thing I have going for me. What an ugly guy I am. But look at, yeah. I've often thought that I should just grow wigs.
Grow wigs?
Just be a wig farm.
You should have like the old lady wigs, like the blue one, the Bob, the Karen.
Speaking of which, we've got some Karens and some blue hairs to entertain today, so we're going to be rushing through this show.
Okay.
I'm not insulting Flobo's audience. I'm insulting mine.
I have an audience. Hey, Mom, he's not insulting you. That's what he's
doing. No. It's like you got your gig right after the show. I got my gig right after the show.
True.
And my gig is it's a matinee of the play I'm in. And so that's when the blue hairs show up. That's
that way after church and before the lunch special, dinner special.
As a matter of fact, they are probably fresh out of Denny's, full of pancakes, just so sleepy. So yeah,
I'm an IHOP man, but I respect that.
And IHOP, much respect to IHOP as well. Okay, we are aboard the Defiant. This is a very unusual episode because none of it takes place on Deep Space Nine. The Defiant is at Earth. They are attending one of those action-packed annual Starfleet symposiums. And there's also the Captain Sisko saying, "I'm looking forward to the opportunity and to visiting my sister in Portland."
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have family in Portland somewhere.
I'm looking forward to the opportunity of talking to Starfleet and visiting my sister in Dover, New Hampshire.
I mean, she has a great Subaru. Portland has a lot of Subarus.
So, I can't remember if the sister is a constant in this show. I don't remember there being much of a sister. I don't know.
To Leo's point, does she go to Denny's? Is she fresh out of Denny's?
That was a good album. That really was a good album. So right then and right there, I'm like, wait, what? What's going on here? There is a conversation with our favorite Ferengi, Quark. What did you think about that little conversation? Because basically, Quark comes in on the emergency channel to remind Captain Sisko, and I believe he's captain at this point because he's got the Defiant, and they let him be a captain. Going back to a very earlier tidbit of information, Avery Brooks, when it was clear the show was going to be on, the show was going to keep getting renewed. It was a fairly successful show, Deep Space Nine. Avery Brooks said, "Okay, enough of this commander crap. I want to be a captain too."
Can't knock that.
At which point I go, give the man his captaincy, for heaven's sake. You know, our leaders on Star Trek are captains. Yeah. He has a ship called the Defiant. He's a captain.
Until I fell in love with people hate my say this, fell in love with the idea of Burnham being captain. Sisko was my captain too, not necessarily of the black thing, but he seems to be very a lot more measured. In a lot of ways, remind me of my favorite superhero, Green Lantern, John Stewart. So I was like, oh, it's kind of cool that he was the captain. But before I get to your point, one of those words that sounds dirty but not, tidbit. But I was interested. I thought Quark would have been a bigger part of this episode when he kind of showed up, quoted the scripture, and left. I was like, okay, was he just already in the chair? And they were like, hey, look, going to do extra stuff for this extra episode. Cool. And he just left. But yeah, I think it's kind of cool that he was there to reestablish Sisko's knowledge in the rules of acquisition.
Yes, which is very cool. The articles of acquisition are is that what they're called?
The rules of acquisition.
They're very funny. I love them, and they're used to great extent here. Let's see. Did that happen? Where did that happen? Oh my goodness. Because basically he's asking for favors on behalf of the leader of the Ferengis, who apparently is getting the Dominion to talk, the people over in the Gamma Quadrant to talk to us in our quadrant. Anyway, there's a whole thing. I just thought maybe there was some weird, well, I don't think we have enough aliens in this episode. Can we get Quark on there?
Yeah, hey, you, where you going? Lunch? What the hell you are?
I mean, we're going into the past. We're going to be talking to a lot of people in the past. So maybe that's not rules of acquisition. Yep. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I said it wrong. Do you remember the first rule of acquisition that they quote?
No, I was like, this is going to be one of those books that have different rules all the time, right? I had no idea.
Basically, the Grand Nagus has done a favor,
which always trips me out when they say it out loud. I'm like, the Grand what now? The who? I'm sorry, what? I gotta put the captions on. Yes.
I can't even fool around with this. I can't even play with this joke.
I'm just a regular niggas. The grand niggas is hanging around here. All right. I'm sorry. It trips me out. It trips me out.
So let's just skip ahead. Anyway,
Craig is right. Jon Stewart is like my favorite Green Lantern for so much. A former Marine architect. It was really cool back in the 70s when everyone was talking like superheroes. Like,
yeah. Jon Stewart was a great addition to Justice League. The Justice League cartoon used him really heavily, and he was a tremendous character. And Phil Lamar, of course, does the voice for him. And I remember talking to Phil in a waiting room because we would audition for things all the time, and telling him, God, I just love the character. You're playing. It's not just hi, I'm showing up to do a voice, and this is a cartoon. Like you're playing an actual character. And he was like, yeah, that was my first romantic triangle in acting.
It was.
Because Jon Stewart had something going on with Hawk Girl and who was the other gal?
Hawkman. Oh, sure.
Not Hawkman. They weren't that open-minded.
Yeah, it's gonna bother me. I'll look it up. But continue.
Was it Fire? Was it? No. Vixen.
Vixen. That's what it was. Yeah.
So, and at one point, Vixen and Hawk Girl are like talking about him. And they're making fun of what a Marine he is because he folds his socks and things like. Oh God, it was just really funny. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, the Bell riots. So there's a transporter accident. When did the transporters work? When did they not have accidents?
I don't know, but to give credit to Kira. By the way, Kira is a cutie. Okay, I don't know why Odo took like 6 years to ask her out. I mean, I would. To your point though, the transporters break all the time, and I felt bad for Kira because for the first 20 minutes she's like, "Huh? What? What's that? Can someone explain it to me? I have no idea." I was like, "Come on!" It happens every time.
This is a big episode for somebody has to have things explained to them.
It's like CSI. Like we all know what GSR is. You work here. Like, it's season 12.
Well, you've always got to have a character like on CSI. It's like bring the ballistics person in to ask questions about medical. Right, bring the medical person in to ask questions about ballistics. Yeah. Okay. So there was an anomaly of a variable. There was some weird sciencey thing that just happened to pass through the solar system that made the chromatons anyway. There was a transporter.
It was called the plot, so that's why these plot anomalies.
The plot says it happened. That's why it happened. So the transporter this time makes a mistake through time and takes our landing party, which is, and they're supposed to be going to a boring symposium. But it's Jadzia Dax and Dr. Bashir and our captain Benjamin Sisko. They go down to San Francisco because plodium particles were at work here.
You guys, plodium
plot. Yes, exactly, Leo Jedusek. So they go to San Francisco, but in another time. And there just happens to be a subway stop. Pretty cool, actually. And downstairs, that's where Dax, who presents as a white woman, lands. And up on the street, looking like they're sleeping on the street, are the two brown men, Dr. Bashir and Captain Sisko. So
absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. So a guy, I'm skipping ahead a little. A guy finds Dax and he's like, "Oh my gosh, did you get mugged? Are you okay? Let me help you." And then, hey, look, Barry Corbin's here. Hey, Barry
Corbin.
Doing, Pally. And the cops actually find the brown men, to find Cisco and Bashir, and the cops actually, and technically they're not cops, they're the guards from the sanctuary, which is weird. Like, did they send them out like, go gather up some homeless people and bring them back here? You got a quota.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be a lot of things we'll talk about, like the anomalies, or not the anomalies, the parallels we draw for allegories we draw to like today's. But I think having non-sanctioned police is the most, to me, closest to what's actually happening here. But can we talk about Jazia Dak, for example? I just found it kind of convenient that she ends up downstairs, like through the subway, and she's like, so like gracefully against the wall.
Yes, just like casually seated.
And of course, simping does not outlaw in the future. The guy's like, oh, a presenting white woman, allow me to give you everything. I'm like, are you kidding me? All right, fine. Because she wasn't kicking game. She wasn't a seductress. She was kind of like, I'm lost. Oh, I have everything. Have my money. Have my key. Oh.
Yeah, are you okay? Can I take you to my office? I happen to be the CEO. Come with me.
He takes the subway.
Okay. Now I can kind of argue for that.
Not in San Francisco, they don't.
The CEO. Well, yeah, sometimes they do in San Francisco. Maybe he's a tech billionaire.
Oh, yes, maybe he is. I apologize.
But you'll notice the subway stops at the front door of his building.
Well, that actually happens too in New York, in Long Island City. Maybe it's real.
Kind of convenient. He takes her up to his office to use the internet. That's so cute.
Because you won't have internet in your pocket, would you? That's way too futuristic.
That's adorable. It's 2024, and he's like, "Come up with me, and we will use a stylus on our computer to choose things, and you can use the internet. Hang on, got to sign on to AOL."
Kids don't know that sound. Kids don't know how to sound at all.
Just adorable. The whole thing's adorable. So that's the fun part. And then eventually, like, there's a party, and Dax gets like her Hunger Games haircut.
It's 2024, right? So what, 30 years in the future from time? Why did everyone just adopt this old West chic? Like this saloon? Like, what is happening? Oh my word! In San Francisco, I do declare, like, Gone with the Wind. I don't know what happened there.
It was so Gone with the Wind. And everybody's kind of doing the lockjaw, which is like, they don't do that in San Francisco, but whatever. I guess rich people do that. Let's see what Craig Lubin's got. Come up to my place to use the internet line. Never works for me. I mean, I just miss getting free AOL discs in every magazine I ever subscribed to. Oh, I miss magazines too.
I would collect those. This one has 400 hours. This one has 600 hours. It has to be better.
Leo Genesec drops in with a very Gone with the Wind fiddle-dee-dee. I added a D. Fiddle-dee-dee. Oh, there you go. He fixed it. Fiddle-dee-dee. The main part of the plot is explained to Dr. Bashir. So now we have Commander Cisco, very well versed in the 20th century. And says, 21st century, my apologies, and says, you don't know much about the history of this time. And Dr. Bashir says, well, I could, but then you wouldn't have to give me all the exposition for the people at home. Right. So no, I don't know anything.
Right. That was be that guy. Oh, you didn't read that story? Well, let me tell you. Mm-hmm.
So we find out that there are sanctuary areas, sanctuary zones in every major city in 2024. All the homeless people, all the jobless people, all the desperate people who have nothing are basically put into these escape from New York kind of penned in areas. This seems very, brutal and draconian. However, this has actually been proposed in several major cities as early as 1995. Mm-hmm. Ira Stephen Bear, who co-wrote this episode with Robert Hewitt Wolf. The original plot of this was supposed to be that Captain Sisko gets sent back in time alone, becomes a homeless man, tries to convince people that he's from the future and that he runs a space station. No one believes him because that's what a crazy homeless guy would say. They put him on Thorazine, and then he's a zombie who has to be rescued. That was the original plot.
I think I see that episode.
It's a solid idea because Wolf actually said, the more I looked at that story idea, the more I didn't like it. Ira Steven Behr came in, and I think you'll find the more you study DS9, what a hero he was. I always give it to Ronald D. Moore, who was supervising producer on this episode, so he had a hand in there too. He's so clever, Moore, but so is Behr. And Behr turned it into this. He turned that original plot into, there was a turning point in 2024 where all the crap went down. And that was what made people in the United States change their minds about whether or not they were going to address social problems as opposed to ignoring them. I don't know. Does it feel right to you, Flobo, that socially speaking, 2024 is the breaking point?
It's hard because now it's 2022. As I say this, I go, are you kidding me? We're still fighting, and now we have more tools to fight each other. But I understand when we think about the recent future, it tends to be in 30-year chunks. I mean, iRobot came out in 2025, I think, when it was released. So I understand it. I guess the idea is like this could happen if you're staying on the same course. But at the same time, 2024 doesn't sound like a pivotal year to me.
Yeah, not in this sense necessarily. We're still so deep down in the mud as a country right now. We're still very divided, and people revel in the division. It always makes me laugh when certain people say, "Well, everything's so divided now."
Well,
yeah, but you don't dislike that. Most of the people I hear saying that.
There is no money in unity. There is no lifestyle and togetherness. If you all are happy, then
damn, dropping that.
I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I'll take it back.
Holy cow, folks, that'll do it for this show. Nothing I can say that's smarter than that. Okay.
I swear to you, I'm not that smart.
Dropping the truth bombs. That's true. There's very little money in it, and as yes, Craig, you're absolutely right. Status quo at all costs.
Status quo.
And this is really the thing that needs to get out there. This is the thing that people need to understand. You got to break the patterns. You got to break the status quo, and that is what happens as a result of 2024 in the sanctuary in San Francisco. There is and this was the thing I was talking about earlier, one of my least favorite tropes, the siege. They take hostages. It's tense. There's bad reactions to the hostages being taken. Oh,
not a fan?
Not a fan of this trope at all. It is such a money saver. It's
true.
It just, they just put you in a room and there's guns and there's mean people. It's just so full of the same thing over and over again. I was watching, I always have these crap shows I watch just to turn my brain off. And my latest one is Psych.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I just really loved Psych. Back when it used to always be advertised while I was watching wrestling, I was like, I'm never watching that show. And eventually I started watching it. I'm watching it. I watch like 3 episodes a day while I'm doing other things. Siege episode just like 2 days ago.
Right. And it was great.
It was like there's a bank robbery and it goes wrong and now there's hostages. Anyway.
I didn't think the fire came out, bro. Grumpy Captain. Jeez.
We've got so much to do today. And we're at 11:31 right now. Okay, so there's a the story that is told to Dr. Bashir by Captain Sisko is that the riots are just about to happen. He sees a calendar while they're in, oh God, and I love this. I love this. Like, so you go back to the past and it's very barbaric, and they shove you into this sanctuary, which is just a big camp, and it's basically the DMV. You spend so much time waiting for people to help you, waiting for the services that you've been promised to happen. And it's just like, oh, they go back to the past, get stuck in a homeless, camp, and the stupid DMV. So they're at this processing center. Captain Sisko sees the calendar and he realizes they're just a few days short of the Bell riots. And one thing they cannot do, of course, because they've gone to the past, is they can't do anything major. It might change the timeline.
Damn, this transporter dropped me specifically before one of the biggest events in human history. Thanks a lot.
So I
couldn't be in Oakland when this happened. I couldn't be in Des Moines. I had to be with. Okay.
Right. So the Bell riots happen because there is a siege and a hostage situation where basically the cops are taken hostage, and rumor gets out that the cop hostages have been executed by their hostage takers. And then the cops swarm in to the sanctuary, and thousands of people are killed. And it's such a huge atrocity. And then they find out that the hostages weren't murdered. They were saved by one of the hostage takers, a man named Gabriel Bell.
Mm-hmm.
Gabriel Bell then goes on to represent somebody who had nothing, but still was an honorable man. And he didn't murder innocent people. And everybody felt so bad that this whole thing had happened, that they tried from that point on to solve all the problems in society. And by solving all the problems, they eventually set up what we know as the Federation, where the Federation believes that no one should be left behind, financially, home-wise, mental care, medical care, that everybody has a right to get something back from the system. You know me, man. I'm an old hippie. I love that stuff.
I do too, and I don't want to sound super cynical, just a little cynical. But I wonder, listening to this, especially now that we know, can martyrs exist in 2020 plus? I mean, when someone dies for our cause, I almost feel there's almost like a counter propaganda to say that they're not worthy of being celebrated almost instantaneously. What thought was kind of interesting in this case.
Yeah, well, now, I would argue from the hopeful place that is an initial reaction. Is someone's going to go, yeah, but here's Gabriel Bell on Facebook throwing up gang signs.
Yeah,
because I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying. And remember, that's the media. That's the corporate media that does that. Yes, it informs a lot of people. It does put that idea into a lot of people's heads, but hopefully, I'm very hopeful that people do understand right from wrong on a level where they go, yeah, man, this should not have happened. This should not. I mean, you have to understand this is 1995 and they're trying to say, let's solve homelessness. So they kind of shove everything into this, what seemed to them to be a near but impossibly futuristic time.
Right.
And here we are sitting 2 years away from it. And we're not seeing any social progress being made at all. At all. So, yeah, it does seem silly and weird to us. But it does. Ira Stephen Bear said the Gene Roddenberry way of doing Star Trek was things may seem perfect, but they didn't get there without a lot of trouble, a lot of pain, a lot of death and loss. And he wanted to show one of the times where it happened. The fact that 2024 is now being used on Picard for season 2, I think is really tremendous. So now this thread goes all the way through the Star Treks of, things were really bad on Earth, and we should probably honor that by showing it. So I appreciate this 2-parter from that sense.
Well, again, I have to withhold judgment, but it seems kind of like, well, we'll get to part 1 and part 2. So unlike most episodes of Star Trek, I actually had seen this episode recently before covering it here for Starbase 80. But watching both parts, and we'll ask that question at the end of it, it's kind of like, did it need Picard? You know what I'm saying? I think the story was great. The fact that it was kind of like this tangent series that is good, but there never gets in that same conversation of original versus TNG, having its own part of the lore of what Starfleet is. Do you need Picard to go back there and get involved there?
I'm going to argue, I'm going to answer that. And it's an argument that I'm only basing what I know on the previews. So, because I don't know that much about what's happening, but I believe the way they're setting this up is this is Q judging humanity still.
Makes sense.
So the test, I'm trying to remember what he says in the preview. It's something like the test never ended. And so now he would be, taking us back, just as he did in Encounter at Farpoint, where he says, oh, this is what Earth looked like in World War III. This is you guys. And the Federation's argument is, no, that's not us anymore. But they do have to acknowledge, and they do acknowledge to Q that, yes, that was our past. It was shameful. We learned from it. Thank you, Leo Genesek. The line is, the trial never ended. Because
he changes icon every week? What's going on with Leo?
Yeah, I think he does, actually. Okay. Leo, is that you at like 12 or something? Leo's kind of a baby face. That could be him at 16.
Yeah, he does.
So, basically, it's an hour to tell a pretty brief story. We've already told you the Dax part where she just ends up, drinking cocktails in like, fancy San Francisco towers.
Oh yes, my friends were in the hood. Tragedy.
And the homeless encampment of the sanctuary is just so hard and so rough. There are what they're called ghosts. They're the people who just can't get with it in the sanctuary. And these guys all wear fedoras. It's the Hat Squad.
Ugh. I don't know what alternate future this is, but I want out. Bring back jorts. Are jorts still cool? I have no idea.
Jorts. There'd be a lot more jorts. There'd be more jorts than fedoras and vests. They all look like Art Carney from The Honeymooners. For F6.
Hey, Rally Boy.
Hello, Bo.
Best sitcom of all time.
So, basically, there's a man who steps in to help Bashir and Cisco as they're trying to help a guy who's getting mugged by the Hat Squad. This guy comes in, this tall, strapping black man, and he gets stabbed right in the chest. And they find out who he is. They find his ID. That was Gabriel Bell. So, what are you thinking at this point, Flobo, in the story?
Gabriel Bell went out like a bitch.
That's so unfair. That is so damn unfair.
I take that back. I'm sorry. I don't know why. Fault, I felt really awful making that joke. I don't know why I did that. I'm like, oh man, what's going to happen now? I mean, is the timeline going to change? Because before that, some of the things from Starfleet disappeared. So I don't know.
Yes.
How it was going to be.
Yes, and that's actually funny that they do a oh God, what is that movie? Michael J. Fox.
Back to the Future?
Back to the Future. They do a Back to the Future. Remember in Back to the Future, he's got the Polaroid of his family, and they're like one by one, they're disappearing.
Yeah.
Well, big blank slate in the future, we find out aboard the Defiant. First off, they're in the middle of being told, don't try to go back in time to save them. And then Starfleet just bloop, disappears, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
I wanted to point something out very exciting to me. So the guy, Gabriel Bell, who does get stabbed and murdered, he's played by John Lendale Bennett.
Okay.
Mr. Bennett is the stuntman and camera stand-in for Avery Brooks for Captain Sisko.
That's pretty cool.
Right? So
yeah.
At the very end, they say, "Who are you, new boy?" How'd you feel hearing a white guy say that to Captain Sisko?
Wasn't as bad as Grand Nagus. It was interesting, but I get it. You know, it's like in context, it's like fine for what this was, but it wasn't glamorous.
I'm flinching every time I hear the word "boy" come out of his mouth. Oh, man,
Fuzzy Zeller. Yeah, I got you.
I mean, if I was on the set, that would be a definite like. I'm not with him. I might be wearing a hat and a vest and holding a gun, but I am
David Uncle. Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting that Captain Sisko says Bell. The name is Bell. Gabriel Bell. They call me Mr. Bell.
Everyone was laying it on thick, man. I actually have it in my notes here. I was like, can Bashir stop with Hamlet in the city? Oh, if we are frightened enough, how would we react? It's like, come on, bro. You're in San Francisco. Cut loose.
Alexander Siddig has said that this was his favorite episode because this is the episode where Dr. Bashir goes from being, the eager young Federation officer to being cynical and taking on these problems and realizing how rough reality is. Yeah. I guess we all remember what it was like to go from being 26 to 27. We know.
Oh man, yeah. I think 25 to 26. When I finished school, I was like, okay, now what? And my entire career was for semesters, and now there are no semesters. I didn't know what to do with myself.
Wait, I'm not gonna be able to just party on the weekends anymore. I have to work.
I beat it. I beat life.
So we end with the siege. The evil Hat Squad guys have taken these hostages. Avery Brooks is basically like, well, I guess I'm the only black guy here. I'm Gabriel Bell.
Yeah, smart move on his part.
And now he's got to make this revolution happen just the way it happened in a non-violent, very, very, noble, in a very noble way.
All right. Quick thinking on this part. Yeah, quick thinking on this part to say I'm Gabriel Bell, but it's like, I don't know how many steps ahead was he planning to realize that at once.
That's a good question. Because I don't know if it was like like someone's got to step up and be Gabriel Bell, or did he know because he was the one who had Gabriel Bell's ID? He's the one who tells Dr. Bashir, that guy we just saw get killed, that's future Jesus. We're messed up. By the way, I'm sorry I did that on a Sunday. I'm saying that.
If we're gonna be smited, we've been smited already.
I don't think there's any real church folks watching the show.
Imagine.
I do have to point out a guy that is very nice and really represents like what they're called are the gimmies. And that's just people who have nothing and are just hoping to get something out of life. They wanted to get jobs. They wanted to get their own homes, their own money. None of that is being facilitated for them. And we find out from this guy, Webb, and played by Bill Smitrovich. I've loved Bill Smitrovich as an actor forever. I don't know if you remember, he was the dad on a show called Life Goes On.
Oh yeah.
And that was the show with Corky, who's played by an actor who has Downs, and he's playing a character who has Downs, and it's really about the family. It wasn't just about Corky, but Bill Smitrovich played the dad. I love Bill Smitrovich because our faces are so similar.
Oh, that's one way to love somebody. You look just like me. Yes.
The nose, the chin. And I love the fact that not everybody who looks like this, Randy Quaid, not everybody who looks like this is from the same part of the world. Like guys who look like me have been sprinkled around it. Flobo, rolling your eyes behind those lids. I can tell.
I love the dedication. I love people who look like me too. That's praise.
Well, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? There's who's that dancer? Twitch?
Yeah,
if you just grew it out really long, you'd look a little more.
Everyone
like
says
Twitch,
that to me. I get stopped in stores all the time. I've signed so many Twitch autographs. I feel bad for those people.
Dude, Twitch is beloved. Get some of that.
I have no rhythm though. The gig will be up really quick because I have no rhythm. This is sorry, kids. It's pretty bad. It is pretty bad.
Tell people they don't understand crumping if they don't like your dancing. Well, you just don't know what crumping is. And say it like that. Woo. Look, we got to end this episode. Flobo, do you have anything on the notepad you'd like to share with the good folks?
Sure. It's always so weird when they try to create slums on TV sets. It looks pretty clean to me.
They use the Fox lot. This is like one of the few times. No, Fox, Paramount. They use the back lot. Yeah. Go for it.
Super obvious. No, don't apologize. Sorry. Also speaking of Fox, the Fox lot was used for the Uptown Funk video because in the background you can see palm trees. The Chris Brennan had a Maori tattoo removed. Yeah, you are a total sellout. That process clerk is tired as hell. Here's your credit. Sleep wherever you want and watch out for security guards. Whatever. I hate it when Gabriel Bell showed up and tested positive for death. And finally, I just love how O'Brien says particles. It just tickles me. Particles.
It's a really good O'Brien episode. It's kind of on the stealth, but it is a good O'Brien episode. Okay, folks, we're gonna run for this week. We got so much to do. Craig Robinson, no need to.
Hey, Craig, I'm looking up these Star Trek pickup lines on Twitter. How about this one? Did someone set your phaser to stunning? Use it. You can use it.
Ooh.
You can thank me later. Ow!
Let us know if you got to beam in. Folks, we got to end it. I got a job. Flobo's got a job. We got to go do our job. Thanks for being here for part 1. Part 2 is next week of Past Tense DS9's. Be sure to watch that episode and come here, come back, discuss it with us. I just love this song. Flobo, thank you so much.